Hi guys, it's Nicole, and today I am sharing my first project with the February Flavors of the Month kit. I am also participating with the sketch challenge for this month. You can find that over on the Facebook group. Link will be below in the description box. This is the Simple Stories Simple Vintage Weathered Garden kit. Kind of a mouthful. I think that Simple Stories is going to continue to do these vintage lines. I'll be honest, they're not my favorite, but they always kind of create this interesting challenge for me. And I think it's because I don't gravitate towards vintage feeling lines in general. So it always kind of makes me stop and really think about finding photos to go with them. So as always, I keep this part of the video in real time so that you guys can see the kit and get a good idea of what comes with it. The main kit always comes with 2 sheets of cardstock. In this instance, they are, I want to say it's like a really, really light gray. And then the 3 pattern papers, and then we got a sampling of the foam stickers, and then a mixture of the bits and pieces and the floral bits, and then a little piece of the enamel dots. So that's the stuff that kind of changes from kit to kit. And then here I pulled out the 2 pattern papers that came in the pattern paper add-on kit, so you can see some of the different patterns that kind of go with this line. And then I thought that this was really cool for the embellishment add-on part to this kit that matches it. Like normally it would be an extra embellishment or something. In this case, she did the stencil, and I was like, ooh, that's interesting. And I like the fact that it's something that you can use over and over and over again. It's not something that's going to get used up. And here I just did a quick edit of some photos that I'm going to use. Like I said, these vintage collections kind of make me really, really think about my photos. The collection itself, I think, is geared towards more like love and like wedding, time together, that kind of thing. So I dug pretty far back into my photos, and I had found a selfie that we took on our anniversary. I'm pretty sure we didn't really go like do anything that year. And then I remember this was the year that I went and like treated myself to some new bedding and just kind of update of our bedroom at the time. And the new bedding that I had bought was the same colors as this collection. And I think that that was why I kind of had that in the back of my mind when I was looking for photos. So I decided to, again, I'm using that sketch that's from the challenge this month, and I had to kind of think about my paper layers. And I'm going to get 3 layers from this one pattern paper with this printed like floral heart, not a wreath, but cluster. So I cut some of the wood grain portion from the bottom of the paper to use as a layer. I rotated the paper and cut off another section, but I'm going to use the back side. That's the striped piece. And then I'm going to cut out the big heart floral piece, and I'm going to substitute the circle that's on the sketch and instead use this big heart piece. And then I'm going to use the plaid paper for kind of the largest layer that was shown on the sketch, and then that's pretty much it. I decided to take out the second vertical piece that was shown on the sketch and to remove the 2 tag pieces that were shown on the sketch. The tags, honestly, I wasn't planning on taking out. I just kind of forgot about them. I even cut a couple extra pieces of like the wood grain, thinking like, oh, maybe I can squeeze them in. I decided not to do that. I decided that I was liking where I was at. I felt like it was balanced, and I chose to kind of stop. I think when you look at a sketch, you can really decide if you're going to add things or take away things. And when you look at the layout, you can clearly see that it is the same sketch. This was the point where originally I told myself, don't dip into the add-on kits, like just stay with the main kit. But I kept going back to that stencil. And I kind of hope that things like this continue to show up in the kits. I think it was just kind of a fun, different thing to see in the embellishment add-on. So I'm gonna take a light gray ink and do like tone on tone stenciling. And I've used small stencils like this before on full-size scrapbook layouts, and it can be a little difficult to try to line up the stencil and have it look like the pattern goes across the whole page, especially because depending on how they design the stencil, sometimes the images don't line up. But this sketch was a perfect like reason to use it because the layers are all in the center of the layout. The 4 exterior corners are what's exposed. So I just put the stencil on the 4 corners and kind of focused it there. And by the time I put my layers on and everything, it's gonna look like the whole background has been stenciled. And to me, it just kind of gave a little bit more interest to the plain cardstock and kind of mimics an additional sheet of pattern paper without actually bringing in an additional sheet of pattern paper. So it was just kind of, I don't know, I was just really liking the fact that that stencil was there because I feel like I probably wouldn't have normally done this. I would have left it plain, but I really like what it brings to like the overall finished layout. And then typically with these vintage lines, I like to just go ahead and ink my edges with brown distress ink. I used the second sheet of the gray cardstock to go ahead and map my photos. I just felt like they needed to kind of have like a cardstock border around it just to kind of help them be more prominent on the layout. And this is kind of the part where anytime I use a sketch, I tend to get like the bare bones of where things go, and then I kind of go off and do my own thing. So where she has like the embellishment clusters shown on the sketch, I tend to just put things where they make sense to me. I did like where she had the title, so I went ahead and used one of the foam phrases that was in my specific kit to do a title, and it just says together. And then I used one of like the little additional ones just to kind of give some more color and dimension down at the bottom. And then I just took some of the die cut pieces, and a lot of times I'll cut them in half to be able to spread them to different areas. And I used I think all the butterflies that I got and just kind of put one in the upper left, one in the lower right. And then, you know, I'm going to use the hearts. I love Simple Stories little heart shapes. The foam hearts are my absolute favorite. I love that they like tuck those in to the little open areas of the foam sheets. So anytime that we get the Simple Stories foam stickers, I always use those hearts. Like, they're just so good. So I sprinkled those here and there. And then I went ahead and used up all of the enamel dots that came with the kit as well. I like having different size, like tiny embellishments. And then I just printed out a couple lines of journaling. I didn't have a whole lot to say, so I tend to just keep it easy and keep it basic. And I tend to, I'd say 90% of the time, do journaling strips just because I feel like they are easier to squeeze in where they need to be. I will just kind of look at the space that I have to figure out how wide do I want them, and then I just keep my text within that width. So in this instance, it ended up being just 2 strips that I'm going to nestle and center at the bottom of that heart shape above the title. And then I did remember to go ahead and date my layout while I had everything out. The photos were still open on my computer, so I knew what the date was. And that was my completed layout. So again, I tend to do these layouts pretty quickly because I don't have to make decisions, and then adding something like a challenge of a sketch or a formula makes it go even faster for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will be back again with another layout using the February kit.